So for the first part of this question, we're asked to complete the table of values for y is equal to x squared minus x minus 6. And if I have a look at the table, in the first row, so we have this row here, which is the row of x values, and these x values range from -3 up to +3. And then the second row of the table, we have y values. So we have some filled in, a couple filled in, then we're also missing some y values, so this is what we're going to be looking to calculate. So if I refer back to the equation we have here, in order to find a y value, we're going to take the corresponding x value, so the x value in the same column, so for example, this x value is linked to this y value here, and we can substitute it into this equation, which is a quadratic equation. So we would substitute in the values of x, so we would square the value, would minus the value of x, and then would minus 6, and that would give us an answer for y. So if I do an example of this, so if we take when x is equal to -2, for example, if y is equal to x squared minus x minus 6, and we're looking to calculate y, we square x, so -2 all squared, subtract another x, and then subtract 6, and that gives us an answer of 4 minus -2, so +2 minus 6, which gives us an answer here of 0. So I can fill that in to the corresponding y column that's linked to when x is -2. Similarly, I can do the same for -1. So -1 squared is 1, minus -1 is 1 plus 1, so 2. 2 minus 6 gives us an answer of -4 here. So I can fill that in also. We can move on here to when x is 1. 1 squared is 1, subtract 1 is 0, subtract 6 is -6. For 2, we have 2 squared, which is 4, subtract 2 gives us 2, subtract 6 gives us -4. And then finally, we have 3 squared, so 9, subtract 3 gives us 6, subtract 6 gives us 0. And we can kind of see a pattern emerging here as well. If we go from 0 to -4 to -6, and then back to -6 to -4 to 0. And we'd expect that kind of thing to happen somewhere in this graph because we are working with a quadratic, so a curve here. We're then asked to draw on the grid the graph of y equals x squared minus x minus 6 for values of x from -3 to 3. And then I have here the table that we've just worked out with the new values of y that we've put in. So effectively here, when we have the values of x and y, we've basically just formulated some coordinates that are points on this graph. So for example, if we have coordinates x, y, then points on this graph are going to include -3, 6, and then -2, 0, -1, -4, 0, -6, and so on. So we can just go through and plot these points on the graph, and then we can draw a line, a smooth curve through all of these points. Now, we know what we're expecting from this graph. We have an x squared term, so we're expecting a quadratic, and it's a positive, it has a positive coefficient, so a coefficient of 1 here means that it's going to be a kind of upwards curve, a smiley face, instead of a negative one, which would be more of an N shape or a frown. We can also see that it's going to have a y-intercept of -6 here, so that's also something to look out for, and it's going to be a smooth curve because it's a quadratic. So we can just be checking for all of these things to check we're plotting our points correctly. So firstly here, if I start by plotting the first point, so -3, 6, I can plot that on the graph like so. Then -2, 0 is going to be at this point here. So I'm going to -2 on the x-axis, and then I'm going to 0 on the y-axis, which is just this point already. Similarly, -1, -4. So I take to -1 on the x-axis and then -4 on the y-axis to get the point here. We then have 0 minus 6, 1 minus 6 again, 2 minus 4, and 3, 0. Now I can see a curve emerging already, and now I just need to draw a smooth line through all of these points. I also need to make sure that this line is going to go below these 2 points here. As these are at the same height, there must be a turning point below them. So there must be a smooth curve between these two that goes below them. So now I can just draw this smooth curve in carefully. Just ensuring that I do go through all of the points there. Now, for how the marks are awarded here, you get the first mark for plotting at least 5 of these points correctly, and then the second mark is for a fully correct final graph here. Finally here, we're asked to use the graph to find estimates of the solutions to the equation, which is x squared minus x minus 6 is equal to -2. So if we're working with this graph of y equals x squared minus x minus 6, however, we're having this to be equal to -2, then we're going to be looking for the values on the graph where y is equal to -2. So this -2 is kind of in the place of where the y was. So if we're looking for where y is equal to -2, and we find the x values corresponding to the graph at these points, then we're going to have found the estimates of the solutions to the equation. So 2x values here that are where the line y equals -2 cross the line y equals x squared minus x minus 6. So in order to go about doing this, I can simply draw in the line of y equals -2. So this straight horizontal line here, and label that y is equal to -2. Now if we look at where it intersects the curve, we have a point here and a point here. So it intersects the curve twice. And we would kind of expect that because it's said to find the estimates of the solutions, plural, and we're working with a quadratic here. So now I can look at these values and I'm trying to find the x values corresponding to these points. So if I trace up from these points up to the x-axis here, we can see we have one at -1.6, and similarly this point is at 2.6. So then my final answers here are -1.6 and 2.6, which are the solutions to this equation that we are given. Now, as for how the marks are awarded, you would get the first mark for drawing in this line of y is equal to -2, and then the second mark would be for getting the correct answers here, which can be in the range of -1.5 to -1.7, so 0.1 either side of the answers that I've given here.